What's a NSFW history fact that we don't often hear about? Anton Leeuwenhoek, the father of microscopy, used his invention, the microscope, on his own sperm after one night with his wife. Sperm was unknown at the time and he thought they were little people. Imagine the existential crisis you'd have after that one. Post-nut clarity hits hard on that guy edit. Out of all comments I did, this is the most awarded I've got. I may not give you my gratitude, but I shall give you all a good rub. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh would periodically masturbate into the Nile as a ritual of sorts to guarantee good harvests. Brazilian emperor built a huge personal library just so he could freely shag his mistresses without being bothered. And Quat. Boston and Quat. Corbett, the guy who killed John Wilkes Booth, Lincoln's assassin, was a raging lunatic who cut his own balls off with a pair of scissors after passing a couple of prostitutes on the street. He did not seek medical attention after he did that until after he had gone to a prayer meeting and had dinner. He also escaped from an insane asylum on horseback and was never seen again. Félix Fauré, French president from 1895 to 1899, died while getting head. She sucked the soul out of him. Hawaiian kings commonly had harems of both male and female lovers. The first European to make a Hawaiian to English dictionary didn't want to scandalize his Victorian readers, so translated the term for the male lovers to something like intimate friend. This caused some degree of confusion when missionaries arrived asking to become the intimate friends of the Hawaiian nobility. When the future Edward VII balked at his mistress's account saying, "Madam, I have spent enough on you to build a battleship," she replied, "And you have spent enough in me to float one." In July 1184, Henry VI, King of Germany, later Holy Roman Emperor, held court at a Hoftag in the Petersburg Citadel in Erfurt. On the morning of 26 July, the combined weight of the assembled nobles caused the wooden second-story floor of the Peterskirche to collapse, and most of them fell through into the latrine cesspit below the ground floor, where about 60 of them drowned in liquid excrement. William C. Minor, one of the contributing writers of the Oxford English Dictionary, chopped off his penis using the pocket knife he used to cut the bound pages of his old first edition book. So that's why it's called dictionary. There is a man named Eben Byers who is entombed in Pittsburgh's Allegheny National Cemetery. He was a golf pro and socialite who ended up being the victim of quack medicine. He consumed so much quat, radithor and quat, radium dissolved in water, that just prior to his death his jaw literally eroded off of his face. His mausoleum has him in a lead coffin because he's still radioactive. It used to be thought that blowing smoke up someone's ass was a way to revive them. Some swimming pools actually had a kit, with a bellows-type device, the blow smoke up the ass of a drowning victim. Edited. To clarify tobacco smoke. Are you blowing smoke up my ass? John R. Brinkley was an American doctor who would surgically implant goat testicles into men's scrotums to cure impotence. His story gets crazier from there. Romans used to execute criminals in the Colosseum by recreating myths. A woman was raped to death by a specially trained bull, Pasiphae. A man was given wings and thrown across the Colosseum, Icarus. Another was made to play an instrument and then be torn apart by animals, Orpheus, and many, many more. Edit. The main source is Martial de Spectaculis. I'm uninterested in debating his reliability when he wrote the piece to commemorate specific events that had anywhere between 50 to 87k eyewitnesses. Writers tend to fail when the entire city calls them out for making stuff up. And quat. So anyway, here's Wonderwall. And quat. Gets torn apart by animals immediately after the song. Ancient Rome was covered in penises. All around Pompeii, excavators discovered phallic symbols, from intricately carved 3D cock and balls to scribbled graffiti on street corners, above bread ovens, outside houses, in bathhouses, literally dicks everywhere. When Pompeii was discovered in the 1700s, this fact was suppressed by puritanical types and the church. Italians of the area now use chili peppers as a replacement symbol, including as a necklace pendant you will see everywhere. Of course, peppers didn't exist in Europe until Columbus returned from the New World. So chili pepper now equates to cock in southern Italy, and if you walk around Pompeii, look out for all the dicks. Rome lost as many soldiers in one battle as the United States lost in the entirety of the Vietnam War. It was the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC against Hannibal. And this was back when the entire world population was tiny compared to what it is now. Rome lost 20% of its adult male population in a single day. Edit. Extra Credits did a great series on the Punic Wars. At the beginning of World War II, in Great Britain, over 750,000 domestic animals were euthanized out of fear that rations would be spread too thin and pet abandonment would lead to masses of strays. The National Air Raid Precautions Animal Committee, NARPAC, sent pamphlets out to homes suggesting that people should send their pets to the countryside or kindly have them destroyed. This later became known as the British Pet Massacre. My late grandma had a pet pig that she loved when she was a kid. In her old age she would repeat the same 3 to 4 stories about him. Needless to say, Piggy didn't survive the war. One day when times were tough, my great-granddad took Sir Oink a lot out back and the rest is history. I don't think my nan ever really forgave her dad for that. My dad and his siblings grew up on a farm. Sometime in the early 70s they had a pig named Hotdog. My aunt loved Hotdog. She'd read him stories and ride him around the yard and all kinds of stuff. But she was also too young to know what Hotdog was for. One night, she asks what they're having. My grandpa replies, "We're having Hotdog." My aunt sits at the dinner table, sees a pork chop on the plate, and says, "This isn't a hot dog, this is a pork chop." My grandpa replies, "I told you, we're having hot dog for dinner." He thought it was hilarious. She hasn't eaten pork since then. Julius Wagner Jauregg won the 1927 Nobel Prize for Medicine by giving people malaria. The fever from the malaria would go so high that it could kill off an otherwise untreatable syphilis infection. Left untreated, syphilis could lead to insanity, so it was pretty bad thing. In comparison, having malaria, which we had treatments for, was a link. President Lyndon B. Johnson was obsessed with his penis and used it to control those around him. He gave it the nickname Jumbo. He threatened senators by saying he was gonna sleep with their wives, and if he went to the bathroom in the middle of a conversation, he expected the other person to follow him into the bathroom to continue the conversation and would get upset if they tried to just wait outside. Sometimes he would swing around while standing at a urinal and talking to someone, leaving his genitals exposed. He also drove himself around on his ranch and stopped to pee on the side of the road, so the Secret Service agents had to cover him, and there was a gust of wind that blew the pee onto one of the agents' legs, and Johnson said that it was his prerogative to pee on the agent's leg. Journalists once asked him why continue the war in Vietnam? And he sent all the women out of the room, took his penis out, flopped it on the table and said this is why, So Johnson was a dick. Got it? Yes. Extremely. But he also basically used that strongarming and being an absolute asshole to get the Civil Rights Act passed in Congress. Mostly by using every bit of extortion or blackmail that he had to make the votes pass. Welcome to politics. He sent all the women out of the room. Professionals have standards. Ammonia-rich fumes from a castle's toilet system were used to delouse clothes inside special closets. The real reason you stand aside when royalty walks by. The British Academy of Science redacted massive amounts of the first published observations of penguins by biologists. Penguins are the worst. So much rape. So much necrophilia. The Academy decided the public wouldn't handle it well. They didn't put that in Happy Feet. The artificial sweetener aspartame was discovered when a researcher thought it smelled sweet and had a taste in his laboratory. The first rule of chemistry is apparently never to taste anything. So definitely NSFW. Didn't the author of Frankenstein lose her virginity on her mother's grave? Mary Shelley was the Og Goth. She supposedly kept her husband Percy's heart, wrapped in poetry, in a desk drawer after his death at 29. This was after his friend snatched it from the funeral pyre. Maybe I'm missing something about funeral pyres, but how the fuck do you just snatch an internal organ from one? Quickly. Mozart composed a song which literally translates to lick me in the ass, source. Much of what formed early Internet commerce was pioneered by porn sites. Somewhere I read that the number 1 and 2 and ranked industries for effectively driving advancements in IT were the military and porn. That Genghis Khan killed many people, he lowered the ppm of CO2 in the atmosphere.